Good morning, everyone, and welcome to. Is that my microphone there right off the bat over here, or is that like somebody else?
Oh,
What a
jeez.
start to the show.
Right.
It might be you, Anan. I'm not sure, but welcome to
Uh,
American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. It's Friday, TGIFF, like we always say, and it's Friday. So Kermit is in the house. Even Kermit this morning was like, "Hey, is the Lavia deal done?" And I was like, "No, shut up and just pour the coffee in there." And we just get the morning started. So we'll probably talk a lot about that. Capitan Virgil, John, what's going on, man?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm currently in another room. My current
You look like you're in solitary confinement right now.
right. I'm in solitary confinement because I went off on a tangent about how we're not getting this Lavia deal done, so they put me in solitary. So here I am, folks.
Yeah, I thought you locked yourself in a room and like, I'm not coming out till they sign the defensive midfielder.
Right.
And over here is still sticking with the Darwin season is Anan. What's going on, man?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. And man, John, you might be there for a while if you said
Yeah,
I'm not getting out of this room until we sign somebody.
yeah. You're gonna
Yeah.
see me just rocking like this, Lavia, Lavia.
Okay, so let's start with that. I guess this is, I think, the latest, but doesn't sound like we're paying the monies, according to James Pierce. I don't know how much we trust James Pierce at this point because he's only focused on negative news about Liverpool ever since he left Echo. But we are basically saying 50, nah, he ain't worth 50. And kind of like taking forever to do these deals and stuff like that. I don't know. I know where you are with this, John. I'm almost like if we were planning to pay 44 or 42 or whatever, is there really that much of a difference in 6 million that we're like, he's worth 44, but not 50?
Well, I think FSG think that 6 million is like 60 million now. So it's just really funny because this fee right here, considering the urgency and how much we have to bring him in just right now. I know we keep talking about this, like, I'm sure the folks are probably fed up with us talking about Lavia, but like as long as we don't get him, like this is going to be a focal point. We do not have a six. I do think that the 6 million should be inconsequential, but hell, what do I know? Right, I'm just a dude who's sitting on the floor here in solitary confinement. What do I know, man? So yeah, I don't know, man. It's getting annoying at this point.
Yeah, I just don't. If he's not worth 50, and if we don't think either Ananda, we feel like this is just gonna happen, and we're just gonna haggle it. But and these guys were in Singapore. It's not like he was going to be able to practice with the team until like today or maybe tomorrow. So is that why we're like, it's gonna happen? Can you think of a possible logical reason why this is just freaking dragging?
Yeah, there really isn't one good enough reason to tell me why this isn't happening. Here's the biggest concern though. Another club could say, you know what, he's 50 million and we need somebody, let's just pick him up and then we'll regret it and then we'll go in a bidding war in the last minute and now we're paying 70 for him. This is going to be a horrific situation. It's really scary considering they're worried about 5 or 6 million right now when we should technically be signing two guys for double that money, really. So it's scary. It tells you that they're only going for one guy too, and they're willing to only pay up to 44 million. So this is
See, that's one thing
strange.
I was going to ask. Are they going after only one guy, or the other guy really depends on what happens with this guy, John? You know what I mean? Like, is it like because, I mean, like Anana's saying, like you're like, okay, we're dealing with this deal, but meanwhile we got this guy. But is the second guy that we're gonna go after really depends on the first guy we get? Because if you don't get Lavia, maybe we're gonna be like, well, we have to get somebody better than this guy, and the plans change because of the age and stuff like that. Like the other dude is like a more older, experienced guy, or whatever the case might be. Do you think that's the scenario?
Yeah.
Or we're so focused on this deal, and maybe perhaps we're thinking we're only gonna do this deal and nothing else?
I mean, listen, I just want I just want them to bring in somebody, whether it's one or two guys. Like, it sounds desperate, but that's what we are right now. Whether or not the second dude is tied to Lavia or not, if we bring in Lavia, himself, that's a win already for me. Like at this point, I do not care if we bring in another guy. Like obviously, as to Anand's point, that's the ideal scenario, but we're past ideal scenarios at this point, ladies and gents. We're at the point where we just got to get someone who knows how to play the six, because if we put poor old Curtis Jones there, as you said, Tim, like, oh man, with our tough schedule, I don't know, heads are gonna fall off 3 games in.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like Lavia or bust at this point. And I'm sure there are like other talks that we don't know about. I understand that. But Anand, I guess my bigger concern is, we're dangerously coming close to Arthur time, as I like to call it, where, there's nobody gone. They're like, how about this guy? I guess he'll just sit on the bench. We're never going to play him anyway, but he'll shut people up and it's a lot cheaper and we'll get that guy. Because we never wait till the very end and come up with like this big blockbuster. They're like, oh, we were working on this all along or something. It's always like a really, really bad patch-up job.
Yeah, we'll pull a last-minute Kabak, Arthur, Stephen Cocker situation and put him up front.
Might not be real.
So yeah, that's the biggest fear. I think there's this guy, not very famous. I think we could sign him. His name is James Milner. He plays for Brighton. He could play that position. Probably wouldn't cost as much, and Jurgen would be like, "Hey, that's my ideal guy." But yeah, at this point, it's within the next few days. If we don't make a signing, it's going to be desperate mode. We're either going to pay a lot for a shitty guy, or we're going to pay absolutely nothing, get a loan for somebody that's going to play 7 minutes, and then we'll say, "Wow, that was crazy," and we'll battle relegation or something like that.
And yeah, that's the deal right now. And Alan says, they are opening their season. So the season starts over there, and for all intents and purposes, he's going to start and he's going to play. So he will be out there. And yeah, I mean, he could get injured and then what? I think what you were saying, Anand, about like somebody else swooping in the last second, I think by turning Lavia's head, we've kind of eliminated that threat for the time being. But who's to say somebody like Chelsea doesn't come in and say, and then we'll pay you more than Liverpool was in terms of wages or something like that, and turn his head around the other way, snap it off, and like go back to London with it. So that's probably still a concern. But I think we've turned the head, similar to like what happened to Hendo, where the head was already turned and it was point of no return. I feel like it's the same thing with Lavia. It's just a matter of, do we say it's at this point, it's just become stubbornness. More than anything else. Is like, nah, we're not giving 50. No. And then they're like, nope, we want 50. And I know why they want 50, because they're going to lose some of it. So I know why they're insisting on 50, but it seems like a dead end. Metosh, the Polish prince, says the whole they're in Singapore anyway excuse is just annoying. Whole point to bring someone this at the time with the team by signing while they're in Singapore. You have the guys settled in here already as the boys get back. I mean, it's not like, you sign him and then he shows up like 5 seconds later either. And I'm sure, we can keep him entertained in Liverpool for like a day while the guys are coming. I think, over the weekend, there was no difference of him coming in Saturday or Sunday. I can understand that. But now and on, we're losing. This guy is already not going to play against Chelsea. He was never going to. But now we're probably losing the chance to play in the second week and perhaps the third week as well. So we have Curtis Jones as our defensive midfielder.
Yeah, see, and that's the scary part, because no matter when we bring him in, even if he comes, woohoo, a big party, big celebration, but when is this guy going to play? When is he going to get, used to the system? He's missed all the preseason. He's not aware of what's going on. What's the point of panic buying right now? Like, you know what? They'd be like, okay, here we go. Don't worry. We got you this guy. Even this guy that we could get last minute, it's a panic buy. We're not going to be able to use him for the first 2-3 weeks of the season. And it's, we're already a point 2 or 3 behind it. I hope that's not the case, but that's a big fear. And that's why I keep saying this is scary times. We're threading at very scary times right now, because the season is on the door and we are, our massive rebuild is 6 out, 2 win. That's it. That's it.
So Ryan says, that's a good point, actually. Ryan says, I honestly feel like this offseason is going to be a bigger disappointment than last summer. Yeah. If we rewind to beginning of the camp, though, John, before the Hendo and Fab deals went on, how did you look at this offseason? We were like, do we need another midfielder? Maybe it wouldn't be bad, like to add one more and stuff. Right. But it felt like we were set, right? Like
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
wouldn't be as what the hell is going on
Right.
if that
Absolutely.
was the case.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like we were talking about it before this whole mess happened. Like it was Fabinho was the undisputed starting six. And everyone said that he fell off last year. When we changed system, he actually looked good. Like I'm not gonna take that away from him. So and Henderson still being around would really help Szoboszlai and McAllister integrate like seamlessly, as we talked about it last show. Anand said it's the logical progression. Now logic is out the window. We really have to rely on these guys to integrate like right away. It that whole thing really threw a wrench into the entire thing. So yeah, looking back, I was really excited, man. Like I thought we would be challenging for the league. But right now I feel like I don't want to go into very early prediction mode. If we don't do anything, if we don't sign a 6 and maybe another midfielder, I feel like top 4 is the ceiling. So that's just a big drop off from challenging for the league to top 4 being the ceiling. That's how big a difference these two guys in Henderson and Fabinho leaving made to the entire plan. So
I hear sirens in the background, by the way. So at any second, we might see like a smoke bomb thrown into your room. There,
I am in the asylum, of course. So
I think the SWAT team is on the way to get
yeah.
Because it's definitely going to be a signing that gets you out of there at this point. Yeah, I mean, Ryan says he was thrilled till Fab handled it. And I guess this to me then, Anand, does that go on the sporting director? I don't even put it on the FSG at this point. I almost feel like I want to put it on the sporting director because you had the money coming in. I mean, we got money for these guys. It's not like they just suddenly walked away. So we got a bunch of money coming in, and you had a lot of time. And it's not like, like this just happened yesterday out of nowhere. It's been like 3 weeks now since the whole Fab thing started and stuff like that. So this slowness in terms of getting something done to fix that issue has to be on the sporting director, right? You can't put that on Klopp. I don't think you can put that on FSG. Has to be the sporting director.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, he identifies the targets and they pay for them. And he identified Lavia, and he said, "Okay, here we go." And they're like, "No, what's this guy smoking over there?" And they're essentially not dishing out the money. So I'm not an FSG out kind of guy, and I'm not one of these people, right? But I do have to say, if you see your club struggling to find a player, your club identifies a player, and the evaluation is just 6 million more than what you want it to pay, take the risk, pay the money, and see what happens. Because I think that the replacement was identified. They said if Fabinho goes, even if Fabinho doesn't go, we were still talking about Lavia.
Yeah.
And now he's gone. Now Lavia is the only replacement we're going to have, and they're still not dishing out the money. So the sporting director, I think, identified the target, but nobody paid for him. And listen, I think they're going to pay for him at the end.
Is like, we'll give you 44 to spend on him, but we won't give you 50. I highly doubt that's happening behind the scenes. Right? I mean, really saying over there, wait.
He's negotiating. Yeah, he's the one doing all the negotiation and stuff. And obviously, he's trying to be the guy that negotiates, like the sick deals, like we've seen Edwards in the past. Yeah. But it could be because if I go to the store and I'm like, hey, how much is this? And 5, I'm like, I'll give you 3. And no. That's the only budget I have. I can only give you 3.
Right.
And that's what he's working with. He's like, listen, guys, this is FSG, Americans. They don't want to give me the money. So
I don't know. I almost feel like he comes in the room and he's like, hey, they want 50 for him. And I just don't see FSG saying no, we'll only give you 44 to spend on him. They might be like, we'll give you 50, but I'm just telling you, Edwards would have gotten him for 42 anyway. Kind of thing. And he's like, you know what? I'll be right back. I'm going to talk to him. I'll be right back. It just has to be at this point. It just feels
that's what it feels like,
right? Yep. They've dug their heels in, and everybody's like, well, watch this. I'm going to get him for 44. And then Southampton is over there. Watch this. They're going to pay 50 like a bitch.
Yeah.
And it's just going back and forth.
The way Southampton look at it, these guys paid so much money for Ricky Lambert. I mean, they paid so much money for our guys back in the good old days. They'll pay for Lavia. Right. That's what they're thinking.
Southampton, it's almost like Liverpool the seconds. We bought players for them annually. So you would think it would be an easier club for us to deal with. Maybe not for this sporting director, but as a club, we're very used to dealing with them and buying from them. It's just God.
It's like we have a preferred card at Southampton. How are we not like using it? We're there every 2 weeks. We're shopping on a weekly basis. Every time they got a new guy, okay, go get him.
Yeah,
It just makes no sense.
I feel like Lavia, this upcoming, their next few games, if Lavia appears disinterested, it might cause them to rethink and soften their stance. If he
Yes.
goes like super lazy and stuff like that, he just walks around like a disinterested. So like that's my only hope. But again, it's still not ideal because it's a little too late, isn't it? Like
I know they were saying it in the last preseason. Like I saw a couple of tweets, like he looks so distant. But I think you see what you want to see when you look at a guy. Like,
yeah,
right?
it's
Like the Henderson pictures in training
during a corner kick.
Yeah,
it's just like
when Henderson was training, when the Saudi links came out, the club has isolated Henderson. It's just because he was walking. I'm like, the fuck do you want him to walk holding hands with everyone? Like, chill. That pissed me off.
He's not laughing as much as he used to. And
Yeah.
there's Henderson who usually scowls like 80% of the time anyway. So I think, like the media and everybody, even the fans will see what they want to see. So let me twist it around for you, though. He comes out, John, and kicks ass. You're like, you know what? Maybe he's worth 50, or what happens there?
That's when the media says Lavia proves his worth, $6 more million. You're like, oh, okay. So yesterday he was absolute garbage. Okay.
Yeah, that considering our luck in these kinds of situations, he plays really well over the next 2 games. Southampton raised their value to like 60 or something like that.
And that's the fear. That's
right.
really the fear, though, because he could start the season 2 great games. Let's just say 2 great games, and now they're talking about other clubs are looking at him. Valuation goes up, and it is the rule. As the transfer window gets closer to closing, players' prices cost more.
Yep.
We're talking about Andy Carroll. Had to get him the last minute. We had to pay double for him. It's just how it works, and that's really what makes me panic. But I'm not gonna panic. I'm just gonna relax. But
it can go both ways, though, right? I mean, it really depends on the situation. If the if the club is really desperate, they might be like, you know what, that's fine, just take him for 44. But it does not look like that's the situation. Southampton is very content with saying we want ultimately 40 in for this guy. So you either give 50 this year or we sell him for 40 next year, whatever the case is, and then we get to use him for a year at freaking Southampton, at the championship, and help them get bounced right back. So in this situation, yes, I can only see them increasing the ask price more than anything else. You convince the player, but man, it's just a big headache. So Ryan says, if I could be sincere for a minute, then I'll go back to being an asshole, which they're not totally exclusive. I actually think, for me, they're more inclusive than anything else. John and I are a great addition to the season.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, but they're on loan, so I don't know. We have the option to buy on these guys.
I'm on loan from the asylum, so. Anon here is more likely to join. I'm on the asylum. They're very stingy. They want to sell me for like 70. So
unless they really perform, I don't know if we can keep these guys.
Yeah, my loan, I was more of like Arthur kind of deal. I wasn't supposed to get any minutes, and then suddenly now I was only supposed to get minutes on Friday. Now it's Wednesday. It's happening.
Hey man, you're
right.
The opportunities to build a career. What are you going to do?
Right.
Meanwhile, people with monies are spending more monies. And City gets Guardiola across. I mean, the funny thing is, you could probably say. So this is, I guess, one thing we were talking about. We're saying about this deal, right? It was just a matter of time because they had already agreed once and stuff like that. You think while we're freaking out over here about the Lavia deal, when there's a similar tweet by Fabrizio about Lavia, are there City and United fans and stuff saying, well, that was always a matter of time anyway? So, Anand, do you think it's just, perspective from how we look at it?
Honestly, yes. I mean, because of how much we've been talking about him, if the news breaks that we're going to sign him, to be like, okay, that was a given. They don't know the pain we're going through. They don't know the suffering. They're like, yeah, psht. But for us, it's like, oh, thank you, God. That's oh my God. They're spending 90 million on another defender. They spent 70 million on a defender last year, 60 on a defender the year before. They don't even need him. They're like, hey, we like, and the Sheikh is like, bring, right? For us, it's like, you guys desperately need this guy, 50 million. nah, it's okay. We're good. Like, this is like the story. I mean, two clubs in the Premier League, but it feels like two completely different things happening. It feels like one club's in the Premier League and the club, I would have said the Saudi League, but they got money too now. But the other club's in like the freaking Singapore League that's struck. Oh my God. 90 million for this guy. Can you believe it?
Yeah, that's a lot of money. I mean, like, that's a lot of money that we wouldn't probably spend. But
that's a Lavia and a half. That's a lot.
But here's something I asked John. I mean, you would know if you were in the pre-match fistfights. You just like strolled in at like right in as we went on air. But so we were talking with John before the show. So let me ask you this: if you're a City fan, though, are City fans, you think, worried, saying like, man, if something happens to Haaland, we only have Alvarez. We don't have any depth as a striker, because they do not. So is it, again, all perspective? If it was for Liverpool, would we say, man, if something happens to Haaland, we're screwed? FSG out.
If I had Alvarez?
If you have Alvarez, that's the only guy you have. You're like, we have all these games. We can't have one Alvarez play every game if something happens to one of them. Would we say that?
I don't think so. I don't think
you wouldn't say that?
Absolutely not. Because you've got Haaland that's gonna play every single game if he's injured.
But no, yeah, exactly.
If you got injured, Alvarez, who's honestly just as good, not as perfect. So you've got a guy that's going to bag 30, 35 in Haaland. You've got a guy that can bag 25 in Alvarez. You've got two really good strikers. And honestly, if I wanted a backup striker, Alvarez is too good to be a backup striker. I think if he was at Liverpool, he'd be your starting number 9 week in, week out. So they've got a great backup. Now, if both are injured, we got a problem. But I don't think they look at it this way, because here's how City. See, guys, we're so poor that we think poor. Okay, this is how it is. That's just how we are. We're so poor we think poor. This is how City fans think. Oh, if Haaland and Alvarez are injured, oh, no big deal. We'll go give Vinicius 300 million. It's no big deal. Oh, no biggie. This is how they think, because they always have a solution to every problem. They're so spoiled. They're used to that. They don't think this way. Us. That's how we think, because we're so poor. We're like, oh my God, if this guy gets injured, now we've got to play Klopp's wife and right back, and that's the biggest problem. Yeah. So it's perspective of us supporters, because we support Liverpool. We know how it is on the inside. We know if our top guys are hurt, we're screwed. City aren't worried. They got another defender just in case their other defender gets injured and the other defender can't show up that week.
So that's why I feel like there's going to be a couple of defenders moving out from there, because it just doesn't make sense for them to load up on that many defenders and then not have strikers. I mean, like I say, if something happens to Haaland, Alvarez is a great player. I like Alvarez. I don't think I don't rate him as highly as everybody else does. But definitely a great, he would be a starter in most teams. I agree to that. Would he be a starter for us? Like, I don't think so. But that's, like I say, I don't rate him as high. But regardless, I would be worried about trotting them out there every 4 days. And I would be like, hey, we need somebody behind them. But knowing City, I feel like a couple of these center backs are going to move on, and they're going to have some young kids over there that's going to be able to just hop in. And I know, here's the thing, probably, with Pep, he's going to work. He's like, I put Foden there.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. So
that's what I would do. I'd have Foden up there. So, yeah, I think Pep finds a way around. And now, he oh my goodness, he signed Kovacic. They've signed, oh my God, just this. We're so poor, man. This is so horrible.
Yeah, I guess, are we just fighting a losing battle at this point, John? Knowing what we're going up against. Okay, so let's put this. If we go into the season and Fab and Hendo are still here, I still felt like, hey, man, this is a solid squad overall that can put up a fight and really challenge. But I am nowhere near, leave alone like the challenging for the title thing. I just feel like we're setting ourselves up for like a huge disaster. And after January, we're going to come back strong and fighting for the Champions League kind of season is what I'm seeing as of now.
Damn, Tim, you're going very existential here. Like, is it all worth it? Is there even a point? Like, seriously,
hey, man, when I see you in the room like that, that's what
This is why I'm in the asylum, man. Like, what is the point of even playing out the season? Because we all know the boys in blue are gonna get it. But you know what? In all seriousness, this whole thing with City that's going on, it makes our league win in 2020 all the more impressive, right? Like, you see what we're competing with. Like, these guys can just sign a top class defender just like that. Right? So I don't know, man. I feel like history looks back at our league win like more fondly than rival fans would like to think. However, to answer your question, it is tough knowing that no matter how strong you are gonna be, no matter how beefed up our squad gets, there is this massive club over there that's backed by a nation state that can just absolutely rack up 15, 14, 16 wins in a row and just take control of the league just like that. I mean, Arsenal found out the hard way last year. Like when we lost the league by 1 point, right? People were laughing at us. And now Arsenal felt it and they didn't even make it to the last day.
Yeah.
Right? So now y'all know how we feel and you guys didn't even put up much of a fight. Like City gave you guys a head start and you guys still fluffed it up.
Yes, literally,
It's not-
they were like the
Right.
bunny and the turtle.
Like
you
it's
know,
not as
"Yeah, you
easy
guys
as
take
it
a
looks.
12-point lead. We'll
It's
be
not
fine."
as, it's not as easy as it looks. Like in order to beat City, you have to run up record numbers. Because I don't know if you guys remember at the ninth when the season we won the league, there was a stretch where from the 18-19 season through the 19-20 season, we took 103 out of 105 points.
Yeah.
Right. That is insane. that is insane. Yeah. And that's what it takes to beat City. That's what it takes to beat City. Right? Record-breaking
shit. It kind of sucks because last year was probably 1 year where you didn't have to be as perfect, but we were so shit that we were not even close.
That's the thing. Arsenal didn't even have to be perfect, and they still lost.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's just Arsenal being Arsenal.
Arsenal. Yeah.
I think it was like they were not ready for a title chase, and once you start looking at the rearview mirror, and City looks closer than they appear, then they just like choked it away for the most part. I think it was a young team that was not ready for a title challenge. And let's face it, man. I mean, the season we won the league, even when we were like freaking like 14 points ahead, blah blah blah, none of us were still like we got this guaranteed. I think until that United game where Mo like runs past, takes his shirt off with like Ali celebrating, I think that was the moment where we started singing we're gonna win the league. Everybody was afraid to say it until then because even with a 15-point lead and stuff, you are not safe against City kind of thing. That's the kind of, and that's a huge battle for a team like Arsenal to fight. I think that mindset is very, very difficult. Liverpool might be able to because we've done it in the past and stuff. But it was probably not realistic to expect Arsenal to do it. But so I guess, and my bigger concern is, let's say you don't make the title challenge, you kind of like stumble out of the gates. I guess my bigger concern is, I mean, you have the City team with the nation behind it and stuff, but then you have another one in Newcastle with another nation behind it. You have United who will just throw money around, and I think they're finally kind of getting their heads together, but not very stable. Like if they started with 4 poor results, I think they would crumble again. But if they start with 4 good results, they would keep going.
Exactly.
I think Chelsea will figure things out with Pochettino a lot more. There's like $2 billion worth of players in there that they can put together a good team with. Arsenal have gotten a lot stronger, and I think they're already doing smart ways. Like I say, my concern is there are all these other teams. It's not like, we're never going to catch City, but we'll be second. It's you're battling against like 4 or 5 other solid established teams with no defensive midfielder.
Yeah. So everybody is now talking about the Saudi league and how much money they're spending. We've had our own Saudi league in City in the league for the past 10 years. Whether we like it or not, this whole lots of spending isn't new to us. But now it's right, because now it's not just City. So the last few years it was us and City. United were struggling, Chelsea were up and down, Arsenal up and down. Now you've got the likes of Chelsea, like you said. Arsenal got it figured out. United got it figured out. City got it figured out. I mean, now it's not just us and City anymore. That City pool situation is gone. So it's up to us. Do we want to be a part of the equation, or do we want to be a team that just says, listen, hey, top 4, let's go, baby? And then if we end up that way, what do we say about the future of this club? People will question Jurgen. Is he the right man going forward? A lot of questions are going to come if we don't figure it out. Because now, Jurgen said in the interview, we're going to turn into believers again. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. They're going to back me up. Biggest summer rebuild. And that was all vanished because in the space of 1 week, we've lost every single midfielder in the club that has experience, whether because they're injury prone or because they had an offer from Saudi. and we didn't really replace him because if you do the math, 4 out, 2 win, you're still in the negative. So it's scary times if you're a Liverpool fan right now because we came in a few weeks ago. Okay, we got this. We got Szoboszlai, we got McAllister, we got Jordan Henderson, we have Fabinho. We have a little bit of depth. We can do stuff, and we'll add one more midfielder. Right. And then the whole equation changed. And now City are signing players, United are signing players, Arsenal are signing players, Chelsea are signing players, and we're the only ones that are stagnant, and we're the only ones that aren't doing any business. So overall, I the best way to put it, if you rate this off-season business, it's a 5 because you didn't get the team better, you didn't get the team worse. You're just still in the same spot.
I guess like the bigger concern and what makes it disappointing is I think you have a lot of talents and strengths elsewhere because you did add McAllister and Szoboszlai. You have like a ridiculous front line that you can rotate and a lot of like great pieces up there that can cause havoc and score goals. But, and I know this curveball came in the last second, but it's not that last second anymore. Like this 3 weeks ago, this was last second. It's not last second anymore. It's like 3 weeks ago. So something not happening is, I don't know, extremely disappointing. And I know the FSG out crowd is more like, oh, we'll wait till the end so that we can really hammer him, kind of a thing. I mean, you just call it as you see it. I like FSG overall. I like what they've done with the club, and you can't deny the success they brought to the club. And it's not all Klopp like everybody else thinks. You look at the squad right now, there's a lot of world-class talent in the squad, and it's not all due to Klopp. So let's kind of like give a little bit of credit to FSG as well where it's due. But you look at this situation here, I don't know if it's, like I say, FSG or the sporting director or Klopp, but a combined effort of kind of like a shit show not being able to do anything for 3 weeks. I think it's just like either we plan way too long term so we can react in the short term, or we just did not have a plan in place and the sides are not communicating well enough. I thought the whole point of bringing this dude was more bring like a club kind of guy, so that, they can be like, you like that guy? I like that guy. Let's go make it happen. They're like, wait, we're 4 million short, so that's going to be a concern right here. So, John, do you think you'll ever come out of there? There's our last preseason is tomorrow against Darmstadt. I'm assuming it's more of this 11 this half, this 11 this half. Thiago is going to be joining practice shortly for like a short period of time, along with Basetic over there. Are we just going to basically be like, look, it's like 2 new signings and call it a season? Or is this Lavia thing going to happen and we're going to bring a couple of players?
I still think it happens, right? Because I feel like Jurgen's just going to wake up one day and just go like, hold on. I feel like he's just finally going to wake out of this funk and go like, oh, we desperately need one to at least be competitive. The problem is the timing. Like, even if we do get one, it's still not an ideal scenario. So that's my whole thing. That's why I'm in the asylum. If we are serious about challenging the league, we cannot drop points so early. Like, I remember when we dropped points against Fulham last year at the opening day, everyone's like, oh, that's the league. And I know it was a slight exaggeration, but that there is a bit of truth to that, considering, how little room for error we have. So, like, coming into next year, if whether or not we sign the DM, I feel like collectively we gotta set our sights a bit lower. And that is tough to say, considering I thought we'd be challenging for the league, like I said a few weeks ago when we still had Henderson and Fabinho. But yeah, at this point, I'm just coping. And that's why I'm in the asylum, folks, because I had to get into my head that we're probably just going to be chasing top 4 this year, even if we do sign a defensive midfielder. So that is my way too early prediction.
Yeah, this has been a really dark and dark morning. Good thing I went with the really dark coffee this morning because it's kind of like matching. But I'm not even as dark as it is. It's realistic, right?
That's what it is. What it is. We got to call it how it is. It's not like we're gonna sit down here and pretend like everything's okay. I still think the Lavia deal happens, but if it's happening too late and you already missed the first 1 or 2 games in the season, you're already a step behind. But also, we could start looking at alternatives. They talked about Andre. They talked about here and there. I think we could look into Wilfred Ndidi from from Leicester City. Listen, he's not going to cost very much, and he's already somebody we've previously looked at. Right. And I don't know why that conversation didn't come up But again, I am not the sporting director. But listen, if we're not willing to dish out the 40-50 million for Lavia, let's look elsewhere where somebody we're going to pay. Indeed, he would cost you a 30, 35, maybe 40. You're bringing him in. But if we're just going to sit there and be like, okay, eggs in one basket, no Lavia, no holding midfielder. Okay, everybody, you're screwed. This is going to be our negative talk show for the next few weeks. And then the season starts. And then if we don't do well, it'll be even more negative.
Yeah, I mean, if you try to be, and I did try to be more optimistic and say, let's see what happens kind of a thing. But if you watch that Bayern game, and like I say, this is no knock on Curtis, because this is unfair to Curtis himself to put him there. The kid keeps going out of position, and that is just not his position. And you don't have, I don't think, the back line, or even when we had that back line, you had Fab in front of him. So that defensive midfielder, I mean, you always talk about, goalies always talk about the center backs in front of them, right? They make life easier for me kind of thing. And the center backs always talk about the defensive midfielder in front of them, saying making life easier for me. Right now, the defensive midfielder position makes life harder for those center backs.
Not to pile on the misery, Tim, but Robertson does not look good as well on that third center back. Yeah, he does not look good there. So
Ryan says, honestly, at this point, I think Trent almost has to play in the midfield. And I hate to say it, I think I have to agree, which I have been against this for the longest time. But that's because we had when the alternative is Jones or Trent as a 6, I will go with Trent as a 6 because I feel like you can put Gomez as right back and be fine.
Yep.
But it's not like Trent was a great solution for me from the get-go, because people are going to be strolling into that box, not being tracked back, because Trent is going to be like, when the counter comes, I'm going to do this pass kind of a deal. Because I don't think that's his mindset, is a defensive mindset for him to play defensive midfielder. People just do not get that. That was working when there was Fab next to him, because he could be like, why don't you be creative with the ball and I'll sweep around, I'll be the Hoover. But now by himself, I don't think he can be the Hoover and do that at the same time. Ryan says, I don't like it either. So yeah, I guess we'll end this dark morning show with not a lot else going on. But come Monday, I'll be expecting another 45 kind of a performance. I mean, I feel like the Bayern, to me, that's why we did a live watch along and stuff, was the final solid test to see what's what.
Yeah. This is going to be another one of those fitness matches where we see, okay, maybe he will start with the starting 11, give or take a couple of players, but I think he'll try the Trent at the 6 again. We'll try a few things that are possibly going to be how we shape up, but this will be nothing but get the guys ready, get the fitness going. I know the greatest of all time, Thiago, could be joining the team, so he could get a couple of minutes. We might see him at the 6 for a couple of minutes to see how that goes. So there's a few fun things to look forward to other than the absolute lack.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Are you looking for anything special in this last preseason, aside from like Thiago sitting on the bench, behind the bench? If you will?
I think I'd like to see, which is very unlikely, but I'd like to see the team that starts against Chelsea. I'd like to put a strong team out there where we're like, haha, this could be it. It's not very likely, but I'd like to see that just to either put my heart at ease or make me panic a little more. I'd like to see Nunez get a goal because after last game, I'm sure morals are down after missing a sitter. So all these things can, one preseason friendly can change your mood a lot. And I'd like to see no injuries because we cannot afford that right now. That's it.
Yes, that McAllister one almost gave me a heart attack at the end of the half there on that Bayern game. How about you, John? Are you looking for anything specific against Darmstadt?
Well, it would be nice to see Virgil with the armband again, as my name says, Capitan Virgil. Like, I have not seen a Liverpool player who was more suited to wearing the armband. Let me just say. Yeah, but pretty much a lot of what Anand touched on is what I hope to see as well. First of all, no injuries, because that McAllister thing was a really we would have been derailed before we even started. I actually hope to see him just come on for a bit, just to show that he's all right and he'll start. Like I don't want him to play the entire game, right? But as much as we could get him in, bet him in with the system is a benefit for us. So maybe the last 20, Klopp brings him on. And as Anand touched on, I would like to see maybe the potential first 11 for Chelsea. I do feel like Klopp is going to play that. So at least we get an idea. At least it's in front of our face how we're going to be setting up, and kind of tailor our expectations as to how we would be looking like. And of course, I hope all of our attackers get goals. So like that's the only good thing coming into this year. Like our attack is, I would say, world class. So I hope each of them get a goal.
Yeah, I mean, even Ryan says offensively we look great. Super concerned about the back line.
Right.
This kind of like gives flashbacks of an older Liverpool. Like you win 4-3 or you lose 3-1 because you couldn't get across. I mean, here's the thing. You play against teams. It's preseason for them too, so they're lacking defensively, and maybe the focus is not there. You kind of give up these easy goals at home against, I don't know, like freaking Burnley or whoever. And then they're going to park the bus. Good luck trying to still get like 3-4 goals against a team that's parked in the back in the Premier League with all the class they have and the threat to counter as well. So that's kind of like the scary thought. If we're going to go with the starting 11, I want to see what we're doing at 6, and I want to see what we're doing to help that 6, because you can't play, if you're going to play Curtis there, if you're going to play Trent there, you can't play it like Fab is still there. Or a defensive midfielder still there. You have to make some adjustments to give that guy some help and some coverage. Maybe not push up as high with like McAllister and then just push Szoboszlai or something like that. Or maybe go to a double pivot, which we never change the system. So let's cancel that thought. But something that helps that 6 work as a 6. Because if you're just pretending that Jones is going to be Fab, I just don't get the mindset there. And if you watched the Bayern game and you still think Curtis is going to be Fab, then you are just looking at things way too
it's funny. It's funny that last season Fabinho had a howler. He had a horrible season, but we would still rather have him above any other option because we at least know that that's where he belongs. Yeah, and that tells you a lot. That, I guess, that summarizes everything. We'd rather have a guy who had a horrible season starting at the 6 over a guy multiple guys who just don't belong there, and that just tells you the story. Yes,
club. Exactly. I would rather have somebody average playing their natural position than somebody above average playing out of position, because at least they know where to be, what to do and stuff. I know Curtis has a leg up. We were talking about this last week, when we almost signed Lavia, that, Curtis has a leg up in some ways where he knows the system. So he knows where Fab should be as the guy playing in front of Fab and stuff. But it's not the same as, obviously we can see that it's not the same as knowing and actually being there. It's just like a mindset thing. Like I say, I feel bad for Curtis in this situation because it was a kid that was on the up and up and up, doing really well in his natural position. And I hope we don't screw that up by playing him out of position and knock his confidence down again. I would think he knows enough that he's playing out of position as natural. The struggles are natural, but we shall see. So we'll be back Monday morning. We'll talk about all these midfielders we signed over the weekend, how they fit in, who's going to get cut now because all these guys come in, the natural conversations we have as Liverpool fans. So come Monday morning, we'll be back with the Polish Prince to talk all about that. We'll probably be able to preview the Darmstadt game a lot more too, find out who's going to be in, who's going to be out. You guys have a great weekend. If you want to see more of Lavia, you can probably watch him later on today, playing against Sheffield Wednesday with the Southampton jersey. But have an awesome weekend, everybody. We'll see you guys Monday. Take care.